peace out. Let your inner peace out. Karmic relief.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Karmic Relief.
Hi, I am one of your hosts, Ed Trout.
I'm the other one, Michael.
And we are so thrilled to have David Roth with us tonight. Now, for those of you that are turning into a Karmic Relief for the first time, just a tiny bit of what this is about. We are both improvisers and musicians and artists and just people. And so we love that intersection of improv, spirituality, the arts, everything that goes into life. So when we distill those, there's an acronym that we both use of PEACE, where the P is for present-mindedness, just being with the people that you are with. That first E is for engaging everybody that's around you. Make sure that you're working with them. The A is for acceptance and agreement. Let people be who they are, let them show up where they are. The C is for commitment. You step up, you give it your best, you mean it, you follow through. And that last E, enthusiasm, enjoyment. So we're focusing on those things in this next half hour with David Roth, but most specifically, having known David for a number of years, we both find him to be very much in that collaboration sense. In fact, as improvisers, one of the last rituals that we have before going on stage is that we go around the room and say to each other, "Got your back." And it is a literal look them in the eye and say, "Got your back," and tap them on the back, when we're not distanced from COVID. And that is something that David brings to everything that we've ever seen him do. He is there to support, to help everybody around him look good. He is there to give voice to those who don't have the same voice, the same equal footing. He's just an all-around stellar human being. So David, before you say anything, just in case there are people that don't know you that well yet, let's give a little more background of who is David Roth.
Who is David Roth? Oh, well, David Roth is a singer, songwriter, community builder, and enthusiastic music educator who has taken his songs, experience, and expertise to a wide variety of venues around the world full-time for 3 decades now, which is amazing. He started when he was 5.
Right.
His work has found its way to Carnegie Hall, the United Nations, several Chicken Soup of the Soul books, the Kennedy Center, Peter, Paul, and Mary, and the Kingston Trio CDs, the Caraville and Falcon Ridge Folk Festivals, where he received top honors at both for emerging artists competitions. NASA's Goddard Space Center, his song Rocket Science sailed on the Space Shuttle Atlantis in 2009, and the Rise Up Singing and Rise Again songbooks and 15 CDs on the Wind River and Stockfish labels.
And you might think that's all, but you'd be wrong.
But wait, there's more.
Wait, he's the winner of 5 Positive Music Awards. He was also the 2015 Posi Music Award Grace Note recipient for outstanding contributions to New Thought music. The former artist in residence at New York's Omega Institute has been on many of Christine Lavin's seminal Rounder Records compilations and has also taught singing, songwriting, and performance at Summer Songs in New York, where he serves as executive director. And he's taught in numerous other locations around the country, in Canada as well.
David is also a creator of the Cape Cod Songwriters Retreat and organizer and host of the Cape Cod's Full Moon Open Mic, which since 2005 has provided a forum for musicians to connect and be heard while at the same time collecting donations for local nonprofits to help neighbors in need, cumulatively nearing $16,000 to date.
Wow. That's so in a nutshell. Although there's still more than that. In a nutshell, that is David Roth. David, welcome. Thank you for being here this evening.
I could just listen to you guys talk forever.
You like the topic.
Talking about you, right? For those of you that have joined us in the Zoom webinar, You can feel free to use that chat function if you want to have comments to David or Michael or myself. If you have your own questions, we have several questions. We'll go back and forth, but please feel free to use that chat function for that. We'll also try to keep an eye on Facebook. We know Facebook, you run with a little bit of a delay. So, but if you have questions, we hope to honor those as well. So, David, again, going back, we've had the pleasure, the luxury of hearing a lot of your performing stories, a lot of your life stories over the years. But how did you begin as a musician? What were those earliest years like for you?
Ed, and it's a pleasure to be here with you guys. I'm a Chicago boy, and I come from a small family, a mother, father, and an older sister. My mom was a professional big band singer, and my dad was the maitre d' for many years at an iconic nightclub in Chicago called the Chez Paris. And if you look over my shoulder, you see a picture in the background of a little boy and a little girl with a light dress. We're sitting, that's me and my sister, sitting in Jimmy Durante's lap at my father's nightclub all those years ago, probably late 50s. And here's a picture of my mom back then, too. We were looking at this. I figured I might as well show it up. I'm showing her now because I just got a text that she's 94 now, and her new washing machine just got delivered to her house in LA, and I'm so happy it's hooked up. She's been keeping her laundry in her bathtub for 2 weeks waiting for this washer, and it's finally been consummated, if I can use that word, the deal. Anyway, long story short, my dad worked nights, my mom worked nights, so childcare was in short supply. We hung out at the Chez Paris, when we were little kids, terrorizing whoever was playing there that night. And in spite of both of my parents' wishes that I do something other than music, my mother was hoping I'd be president one day. We'll just leave that where it is. And my father hoped I'd be he was a Russian Jewish immigrant. He'd hoped I'd be a doctor or a lawyer or a dentist or accountant or a cantor, anything that had a modicum of credibility. Last thing he wanted was a musician, for a son. But it's not like I went running to it. It kind of came running after me. And when everything else I tried didn't feel good and connected with how I was walking on this planet, I came back to my guitar that I bought when I was a senior in high school. And there I felt connection to something. And I had no idea that an introverted person like myself would end up having these 30 years playing around this country and a few other countries and making all these records and helping facilitate people feel more connected to one another, which is, I guess, what I yearn for myself.
That's awesome, David. Okay, so you had a picture taken with Jimmy Durante when you said you were 5, probably.
Yeah.
So
maybe.
And throughout your career, I know you've performed with and been around tons of influential other musicians and songwriters. Who's some of your favorites?
Well, the people who inspired me early on were Peter, Paul, Mary, and Simon and Garfunkel and Gordon Lightfoot and Joni Mitchell, Jackson Browne, Dan Fogelberg, a native Illinois boy like me. It's a long, long list that went on to include Randy Newman and Tom Waits and Joan Baez and Phil Oakes. Of course, Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger. With my friends, we talk about the Mount Rushmore of folk music, and if you take it as who are the most influential Mount Rushmore-esque folk musicians, for me, that mountain would be, and it follows a lineage of chronology, it would be Woody Guthrie, Pete Seeger, Bob Dylan, and Joni Mitchell. That would be my, if it was a songwriter's Mount Rushmore, it might be people like Paul Simon, or Gordon Lightfoot. Again, Joni Mitchell would appear there, Leonard Cohen, Neil Young, just countless. Always been interested in lyrics. I'm a lyric-driven songwriter, so I love people whose language invites me in. I would include the late, great Steve Goodman from my hometown of Chicago, who, if you don't know him by name, was the composer of the song called The City of New Orleans, whose chorus was, "Good morning, America, how are you? Don't you know?" Arlo Guthrie made a hit out of it. But Goodman, who died in his late 30s, all too soon, was what I call a 4. He was a great songwriter. He was a great singer. He was a great guitar player, and he was a great performer. you know. And I don't know that many 4s. I don't know how many people check all 4 of those boxes as Steve Goodman did. So if you're not familiar, I encourage you to check up on Steve. I've got his autobiography here, the Steve Goodman autobiography, and I think it's a big, fat, thick book for a young man in his 30s who lived only in his late 30s. I think one of the reviewers initially said, some books you can't put down, this one you can barely pick up. You know, but my hero.
Nice. Now, you said you described yourself as being a lyric-driven songwriter. Being familiar with many of your songs, I would also say you're a story-driven songwriter in many cases, and like sharing stories to give voice to people that need it. As I said, is one of the things that made us think of you with collaboration and with the whole "Got Your Back" theme. So why is that important to you?
Goes to inspiration, Ed. If I hear a story or someone tells me a story, especially most compelling to me is if they're true stories about real people. These are the people I call the ordinary people who do extraordinary things. I will do my best to make a song out of that story so that that story can live on, you know, way past its shelf life, if you would, in our ever decreasing attention span and consciousness. So some of my songs are story songs, and they tell the stories of real people. I don't really ever change the names of the real people who are in my story songs. And I do my best to get permission to use those names. And if I can't, I'll ask forgiveness later. But I want to make it as true to their story as possible, right down to their names, And there's amazing people who do amazing things. The story about a single mom with 3 kids who was absolutely broken, went into a supermarket and filled up her cart, and all she could do was roll it out. She didn't have the money to pay, but she had to try to find a way to feed her kids. And a female police officer saw her, caught her, and instead of arresting her, paid for her groceries, over $100. And when the story hit the local news, more donations came in. She got several $100s for her kids, and she got a job, when that story hit the news about how she didn't know what else to do. So those are the kind of people who I find stunningly inspirational, and if I can make a story like that into a song, then people can hear it for decades,
Nice.
That's awesome. So you can use some real life stories as inspiration for your songs. And you also help teach people writing songs. I've been blessed to sit in on a songwriting class with you once. I was excited with summer songs because I know when you move summer songs to Stony Point Retreat Center in New York, I was really excited because that's where I did the retreats when I went to seminary. So Stony Point has a special place in my heart. And then when you move summer songs to Stony Point, I was like, oh, I can't wait till I can do summer songs. And now, we're in this pandemic and we can't do that. But you have cyber songs instead. That's branched out of it. So can you give us just a little bit about what cyber songs is?
Yeah, in 1999, my dear and now departed friend Penny Nichols, who you may have met at the Positive Music Festival, started a songwriting camp, and her mission was to further the art of songwriting, but to create a really level playing ground for people of all levels, including no experience whatsoever, to feel like they had permission to make creative expression. And I was one of her first teachers from the very first year, and I have been to every single one. Well, long story short, she transitioned about 3 years ago from many years' battle with cancer. And along the way, I had helped run the camp for her when she was not well enough to do that. And when my friend Sloan Wainwright and I went to visit her in hospice in California 3 summers ago, she asked me if I would take over as executive director. And I said, of course. I wanted her to know that her vision was being held in hands that understood what her vision was. So this summer, there you go. Very nice website and everything. This summer, we weren't able to meet in person at the Stony Point Center, but instead of just canceling camp, we decided to go online for a weekend of songwriting classes, and we called it Cyber Songs instead of Summer Songs, and it was wildly popular. It allowed people from far away in other countries to come who would not otherwise have been able to physically attend. We made it really affordable, $100 per household for the whole weekend, and it was remarkable way of continuing the connection of our community, which has members, many have become lifelong friends by being at this camp year after year after year for over 2 decades. So we just launched today, earlier this afternoon, our Summer Songs / Cyber Songs online hangout, and we rolled out the next event, which is February 19 through 21 in 2021, a weekend of songwriting classes by 8 of the finest artists and songwriting teachers we could find. A guy named Steve Seskin, who co-wrote the song Don't Laugh at Me that Peter, Paul, Mary turned into a 10-year anti-bullying campaign. Sloan Wainwright, the younger sister of Lon Wainwright III. You know Sloan. She is a one-of-a-kind vocal teacher and creativity writer. She is my consigliere and advisor on all things camp-related. We've got Cozy Sheridan. We've got Pat Wichter from Brother's Son. We've got Kate Campbell, Tret Fury, who was one of the founding members of the women's music movement out in San Francisco many, many years ago. Just incredible people. Susan Catano, who teaches at the Berklee School in Boston, songwriting. Incredible. So we're going to have that coming up in February. We're really excited. And I also joke that, we're there to teach that which I say cannot be taught. And people look at me, what do you mean? You're teaching that which cannot be taught. Well, songwriting is a very personal process. And we look for instructors who recognize that everybody's going to need to do it in a different way, but can still be encouraged at the same time to express in their own unique way, what's in their heart and on their mind.
That's awesome. Not a question from the chat, but a comment from the chat from Midge, who agrees about all the wonderful things that we got to say about you, but also wanted to add that you would make a wonderful president. So I thought that needed to be shared.
There was some resemblance to number 44 at a time, but about as far as it went.
So you have a new CD that you've been working on during this COVID and quarantine-ish time, right? So I'm wondering, A, can you tell us anything about the themes that have kind of been emerging from that isolated kind of songwriting? And B, can you maybe play us a snippet?
A little snippet of something, sure.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, it's not an all pandemic-related theme album. It's just songs I've written from March to now. It includes everything from a tribute to the late, great John Prine, who's another songwriter I forgot to mention, a huge influence on me. A tribute to John Prine, a song called When the Universe is Ready, So Am I, about emerging to a new paradigm. There are some about systemic racism. There are some about the pandemic. But it's not all driven that way. It's certain things I had to say. Co-wrote with J.D. Martin on one of the songs called Tonight I Want to Build a Bridge to You. And wide variety of subjects. The word I found was yes, saying yes where a no was easier, that sort of thing. And a little snippet of something that's very recent, in fact, within the last 2 weeks. So, he's a regular Joe in an irregular time, and it's in a time for a new paradigm. People say what they want. People go where they go, but at the end of the day, he's still a regular Joe. A little bit more. He's a regular guy in an irregular game. Maybe just what we need instead of more of the same. People think what they think. People go where they go, but at the end of the day, everybody, he's still a regular Joe. Our differences are understood, but regular sounds really good. Well, you get the idea. To me, regular sounds really good right now.
Right.
Oh, is that it? So, according to my notes here, so this album has been pretty straightforward. It's pretty much you and guitar or you and piano, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm shooting for,
And how is that Is that, do you feel like that's freeing for you, or as
It's a
opposed
lot
to
of things.
your other stuff that's
It's
been?
a lot of things. It pushes me to be a better musician because I don't, it's just me playing one instrument and doing one vocal. And it also, for me as a songwriter, it does what I would want any song to do, no matter how big the production was. I would want the song to stand on its own with one voice and one instrument. So it would be different from anything I've ever done. I've never done terribly overproduced albums, but I've always had a few other people on them. I like the song, to stand on its own. So it's generous of you to say that I'm in the middle of this project, but I've written more than enough songs. I haven't started recording yet. I'm going to take the big plunge very shortly and start working with my MacBook using a program called GarageBand for this program. I'm going to see how that works. It's something I've been wanting to learn, and now I've got the impetus to do it.
Nice.
That's fun.
Well, and you have, because you have another recent album, right? Your 15th album that came out in February on Stockfish, the German label.
Yep.
Meet You Where You Are.
Yep.
So what can you tell us about that collection of music? And can we get a snippet of one of those songs?
Of course. Pardon me. I'm not trying to be rude, but the world headquarters of David Roth Music is not that big. So I'm all the way at the other end, but I want to show this to you guys because Stockfish just sent me a box of these, and it was really kind of cool. Remember these? This is an LP, actually.
Oh my goodness.
I
It's a
remember
double.
those.
It's a double LP.
Ah,
And Stockfish is an audiophile label in Germany. This is my fourth project for them, and they make the best-selling records in the world. And the guy who runs it is a big fan of songwriters. And we hooked up 15 years ago, and this is my fourth album for them. And if I ever brought these to my live concerts, I put them on my merch table, and invariably someone would walk up to me and say, "Why are you selling calendars?" And I say, well, okay, this is probably not for you.
That's cool.
It's really beautiful. They hold nothing back when they make these LPs, which never went away in Europe, by the way. They disappeared here, but audiophiles throughout Europe have continued their LPs, and this is a highly regarded audiophile label for acoustic music of all genres, not just folk. And this is a little snippet of the title song. I wrote this with my friend Melinda Wood Allen from Fort Worth, Texas, at a songwriting retreat when we were talking about this idea of mindless optimism, saying to people that everything's going to be okay. It takes a lot more elbow grease to help things be more okay than that, in our opinion. There are days that are simply not okay. You get out of bed, you're on your way. This is one of those. There are cheerleaders and those who'd pump you up with platitudes and words that don't mean much. Not much at all. Oh, my friend, I will meet you where you are. I won't throw flower petals on your wounded heart. If it's not okay, we won't pretend. But if it's not okay, it's not the end. That's a piece of that, saying that, it's all right if things aren't okay, Or as I think it was Carl Jung, the psychotherapist, said, the only way out is through. In the old days, I used to sprint sideways, to see if I could get around stuff. But I think getting through is the only way.
that's a lovely song, and we love
Beautiful.
adore her.
Yeah.
But just that imagery of flower petals on a wounded heart, like it's beautiful and yet obviously worthless, right? It's a lovely thought, but it doesn't heal anything.
I believe in the power of prayer and the power of thought, but sending thoughts and prayers is something I will never do on Facebook. I'll write, what can I do for you, either up close or from a distance. What's the action that I can take to help you in your situation? You know, that's to me a more useful question.
We do try to keep these things to roughly a half hour, so that we're honoring everybody's time. So I know
We could go 2 hours tonight.
we're kind of getting close to an hour, right? We also we like to do something involving improv that can kind of showcase the concepts that we're talking about. So the got your back, and we had been talking with David just beforehand about what might work for that, and so I believe we're going to coax David into creating a song, improvising a song.
Oh, sure. Hang on one second. There's something going on in the house. What is it?
I'm with Madison.
Huh?
$6,900 deposit from the 707 account
Yeah.
in August.
Can we do this later?
Talk amongst yourselves.
Let's use the chat. Use the chat.
I think so.
I'm gonna give a shout out to Flossie. Hi, Flossie.
Oh, hi, Flossie.
No, and I'm right. I'm live.
Uh,
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah. Okay.
That's why we love live events.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
I
never know-
warned you that there might be a couple slight interruptions. You know.
Right. You never know what's going to happen.
Where were we? Oh, about making up a
Joys of
song
working
or
at
something.
home. Yeah.
So those of you who are with us and can put things into the chat, we need a topic for this song to be about, since it is being improvised. So if you want to use that chat function, and since
I
we're
want to
talking-
disable the chat function. This sounds scary.
since we're talking about got your back, if you want to think to either maybe an activity where you get support or you offer support to other people, or maybe it's an organization where you offer support or you receive support. What is something where somebody has somebody else's back that we can go ahead and sing about? A Jewish boy came from Deborah. Also a song about improvisation from Midge. So
That's it. That's what you're giving me?
that's what I have. That's what I have so far.
That's what we got.
Well, you know, I'm not going to go out on the plank all by myself, so I'm going to bring you guys in somehow. So I would start with just a chord progression that I can have in my muscle memory, so I don't have to think too much about the chords. And oh, this is a brand new song about a Jewish boy. He doesn't know where it's going, he's improvising. Oi. Now I turn it over to you. And first I'll start with Ed. You've got the next line in this song, I wish you well.
I'm not a Jewish boy, but I love some of them. I love Jewish girls too, and I know a few. But if I had to say, one of my favorites would be David Roth. He's a boy, not a girl. That's the truth, you should savor it.
Oh, Ed, you're off the hook. You did a really fine job. I'm making up something about improvising, and you never know where it's gonna go. I think it's Michael's turn. Let's see what he has learned. And there's one thing we can be sure of in this process.
Is that you never know what's gonna happen until it happens. You never know what's gonna happen till it's right there in your face. Moving on and telling stories when you don't know what to say. Just wanna say that Friday is my birthday.
Happy birthday to you, my old friend Michael. I wish you many happy returns. And when I say return, it means going back to all the things that we love in this life. We will do one day, in spite of this pandemic, we will have a new paradigm. And as far as I'm concerned, that would be really fine. So comes the end of this brand new song on the Karmic Relief, where we get to examine creativity and spiritual belief. I'm kinda relieved that this song is almost done. I wouldn't bother at all if it wasn't so much fun.
Yay.
Oh, thank you. That was fun. And there's
An
nothing
album.
quite like the exhilaration of not knowing if the wheels are going to fall off of something when you're creating it, right? I love it. As we come close to the end of our time, before Michael has our wrap-up questions or question, just so you know, if you are wanting to stick around, this is kind of a interview question answer format, but David was talking to us earlier, and he's willing to stick around after the closing slide and do some more open-ended question answer. If those of you who are in the Zoom webinar want to stick around, you can. We even have the option to go ahead and bring you into the room on camera. However, we will stop the Facebook feed, so you will not be a public feed in that sense.
I'll
It
stop
would
the
be
recording
limited
of,
to the-
yeah, I'll stop
yeah,
the
limited to the group in the
recording.
webinar.
So, is there anything that we didn't talk about, David? I know you have tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of stories that you share during your shows. I've heard both of those, so wasn't paying attention. So, is there anything that we missed?
No, you didn't miss this, but I want to tell you a beautiful new story that I just wrote a short little song about, but I'll tell you the story. That's all you need to know. This took place in a tavern in Ohio around Thanksgiving time. They were getting ready to shut down for an indeterminate period of time, and the last Sunday they were open, it was a place called Nighttown in Cleveland. And a guy comes in to order a beer at the bar, and it was a Stella Artois, for whatever that's worth. And he took a couple sips of his beer, and then he took his check and he wrote in it and brought it over to the owner and said, "Thanks, see you on the other side." Well, on this check there was a $7 beer and there was a $3,000 tip.
Wow.
Not a typo. A $3,000 tip. The owner ran after the guy, said, "There must have, no, that's not a mistake. See you on the other side." And so the owner had 4 people working that day who each got, I'm sure, a needed $750 just from that one few sips of beer alone, not to mention the other customers. So my takeaway among many, besides a nice little song called "Keep the Change," is I must not forget that there are many, many more good-hearted people of goodwill in this world than there are not.
It's a lovely story to take us out on. So we've got one more thing to wrap up with before we get to our closing song and credit. One credit, one slide. We like to end these with what is called a Zen poem. So Michael and David and I will each think of a word that for us sums up this last 30 minutes. And Michael will get the first word, and we'll just do a 3-word poem based around our experience with all of you that have been watching. So, all right, Michael, David, do you have your word?
I do.
It's a new word. It's not the word that we,
No, this is new words.
Okay. Yep.
All right.
Kindness.
Surrender.
Gratefully. All right.
Surrender gratefully. Awesome.
Kindness, surrender, gratefully.
Well, surrender kindness gratefully.
I'm gonna put up a slide that has your website, David, and if anybody wants to send you some money through PayPal or Venmo, those are going to be on that. Go ahead and sing a song, and I'll have that slide up, and that'll be our closing
Surrender
credits.
kindness greatly. Surrender kindness greatly. Surrender kindness greatly and see what happens. Remember kindness daily. Remember kindness daily. Remember kindness daily and see what happens.
That was nice.
That was really nice.
All right, I'm going to stop the live feed.
Okay.
I'm going to stop